On a rainy night, my crush drunkenly burst into my house. After touching him all night, I made sure there was no evidence left behind. The second time, he stumbled into my house again, when he was drunk and looked at me, saying, "I remember everything." I was terrified. "Please don't hit me, I'll call you daddy." He lowered his head like a big puppy, burying it in my arms, murmuring, "I missed you, just let me touch you." I was like, my crush, Leonard Austin, moved in next door at the end of July, presenting himself as an elite every day. He spoke different languages while on the phone. I often tried to guess what language he was using when we rode the elevator together. To me, it all sounded like gibberish. On Mid-Autumn Festival, while having a gathering at home with friends, I lost a game of truth or dare, and my best friend dared me to knock on his door for a kiss. I hesitated, knocking slowly, thinking, not home, not home, not home. Leonard Austin opened the door, 2 buttons undone as if he were about to take a shower. "Baby, give me a kiss." I suddenly pretended to be drunk, and threw myself at him, hugging him tightly, and planting several kisses on him. "You smell so good, but why are you hiding?" Emboldened, I gave his but a playful slap. After completing my task, Leonard Austin, with a dark expression, grabbed me by the collar and tossed me back home. I beamed with pride. How about that? A dare is a dare. Did I succeed? You all drink up. My best friend looked at me. A dare is successful if you just do it, not if you do it hardcore like that. Can we still be neighbors after this? Hey, I was just taking the chance to flirt with him. When would I get such a good opportunity again? The next day in the elevator, I smiled at Leonard Austin, saying, "My friends were over last night for a gathering. We drank a bit too much, and had fun. I went to bed early. Hope we didn't disturb you." Leonard Austin looked at me incredulously. "You were asleep?" Bad tolerance. I blacked out. I continued to make up excuses. No one can hold a drunk person accountable. And in the end, Leonard Austin just bit his lip, contemplating. As the elevator doors opened, I smiled charmingly, stepping out first. "I'm leaving now. Bye." I noticed Leonard Austin looked a bit somber. One rainy night, I was practicing yoga on my mat, dressed lightly, stretching my back and doing cat poses. Suddenly, there was a loud knock on my door. I was startled until I heard a cold voice say, "Open the door." That voice, I heard it every day, Leonard Austin. Without thinking much, I opened the door to find him looking just like the day I kissed him, his handsome face flushed, shirt wide open. I almost thought he was here to get revenge. "Your place is over there." I pointed. He grabbed my hand and pulled me inside. "Hey, no, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Help. Someone's being a pervert." Leonard Austin shut the door, and the next second, his head rested on my shoulder as he breathed into my ear. "Kiss, kiss." "What? Drunk again?" I was stunned until he began to squirm against my shoulder. I couldn't help but slap his butt and snapped, "Stand still. What's with all this squirming? Really, do you think so little of my self-control?" I feared Leonard Austin was faking it. I glanced sideways at him, running my fingers through his usually neatly combed hair, messing it all up. Ha. Leonard Austin didn't get angry. Instead, he seemed a bit surprised and enjoyed it, holding my hand and putting it back on his head. "What a situation this is. Ha." As I played with his hair, Leonard Austin eventually grabbed my hand, looking utterly aggrieved as he said, "Not this. I want it like that day." "Kiss." Oh my gosh. He even pouted slightly. Leonard Austin, how cute. Does he know he acts like the most adorable little boy when he's drunk? I cupped his face, smiling softly. "If I find out you're pretending to be drunk, you'll be in trouble, right?" "I don't believe it," I commanded him. "Massage my shoulders, rub my back, and my feet too." Leonard Austin knelt on my yoga mat, reluctantly rubbing my feet to earn my kisses, when his long, delicate fingers, like those of a pianist, grabbed my soles. I was overwhelmed, realizing normal Leonard Austin would never do something like this. If he'd only had a few more nuts, he wouldn't be like this. I narrowed my eyes at this juicy offer and pondered where to start. I leaned in closer, gently blowing on him, softening my tone. "Good boy, call me baby." Leonard Austin, still dazed, muttered, "Baby, Teasing him made my heart flutter as I leaned in to bite his lips. This is a reward. Good boy. Now call me wifey. Wifey. Leonard Austin sat there on my yoga mat, calling out for me hazily. The moment he rasped my name, my heart raced uncontrollably. My face burned. I couldn't continue. You stay here and play for a bit. Okay, I'll go take a shower to cool off. I thought only guys needed a shower to calm down, but found out I needed one too. When I came out, I felt composed, but seeing Leonard Austin, half-dressed with dazed eyes, unsettled me again. He held my refreshing male model photo book, asking, "Is this wife's? Can I look?" I freaked out. I rushed over, trembling as I retrieved the book. Goodness, that was a gift from my best friend, sent to ease my loneliness during long nights. I hadn't even opened it. How did Leonard Austin get his hands on it? Leonard Austin looked confused. Should I not touch it? Isn't it wife's? I was furious. It's mine. Great. Then what's it for? For happiness. So looking at it makes you happy. Shut up. If he remembered this part after sobering up, I'd lose face completely. I turned to him. I'm single. I'm free. I can do whatever I want legally. If you hadn't dared me, I wouldn't have gone this far. Leonard Austin pondered for a moment while I tied it up. He pressed down on my shoulders and kissed my lips. His voice was risping. Does this count as wifey touching? The next day in the elevator, Leonard Austin rubbed his temples, suffering from a headache, while still handling business calls as he entered. After finishing, he paused and suddenly looked at me. I pulled out my pad and opened the form. You last night. Just then, I pulled out my phone. Heath Perkin. I'm in the elevator. Come over immediately. It's urgent. You got it. As the elevator doors opened, I was about to slip away when someone grabbed my collar. I held my phone against my chest, feeling like I was about to die. Leonard Austin, is there something you want? For the first time, I felt like a great actress, surprised, flustered, and innocent, all seamlessly performed. Leonard Austin scrutinized me oddly. We haven't reached the parking garage yet. I looked. We were on the 7th floor. Why was I feeling guilty? If he was going to confront me or genuinely remember something, he'd be seeking revenge after sobering up. Be bold. Astrid Hudson. He likely doesn't remember any of it. What did you want to say just now? I closed my pad and asked curiously. Leonard Austin stared at me intensely, opened his mouth and then closed it again. Nothing. Once we exited the elevator, he glanced my way and said, "Your zipper." What zipper? Men have zippers. Ha. Trying to scare me. I quickly felt around my back. Oh dear. The zipper of my fitted dress. So my underwear's color. What did I ever do to deserve this? Is this divine retribution for messing with Leonard Austin yesterday? He'd barged into my room first, calling me. I cursed as I zipped up, driving off in my little Mini, while Leonard Austin roared off in his big G directly in front of me. Take that. One day, I will win you over, and make you kneel before me, singing my praises. Leonard Austin and I had been at odds since I interviewed at our company. On the interview day, I did exceptionally well, but Leonard Austin barged in unexpectedly, tossing a resume on the table. He told my boss that someone from his company didn't qualify for their firm, but was better suited for ours. My boss considered dropping me right then. I was furious. Once outside, I asked the receptionist who he was, and she blushed as she replied, "Manager of the neighboring branch. Just transferred in a month ago. We're not on good terms." I'll make sure of that. As expected, the company never called me for a follow-up interview. I went to the parking lot, timing it perfectly for when Leonard Austin got off work. Once he got in the car, I dashed in front of his mirror. I straightened my posture and adjusted my clothes. When Leonard Austin rolled down his window, I let out a shriek. "What are you looking at?" I crouched down, dramatically pretending to be on the verge of tears. My coworkers immediately viewed him differently after witnessing my performance. Leonard Austin watched the whole thing, then dialed 110, saying, "Someone's harassing me." The narrative shifted dramatically the next day, claiming a female intern from the neighboring branch thought the car was empty while adjusting her outfit, only to have Leonard Austin emerge from inside. No one debated who was in the wrong. An impromptu love story about us began circulating, until one day during the morning rush hour in the elevator, we joined forces to dispel the rumors. We arrived late to a joint bidding meeting. Leonard Austin called me, like a pig, sluggish and lazy. I gripped my coffee cup, retorting, like a dog, wakes up early and barks loudly. We had already moved in together by then, and since I arrived first, it was clear that Leonard Austin, the dog, was always late. Airport, toothpick. Our banter escalated into personal attacks. Perfect. No one ever said we were a good match again. My view of Leonard Austin changed after an unexpected turn of events. That day, a modern woman, looking glamorous, arrived at Leonard Austin's door. When she left, Leonard Austin held her hand, his eyes slightly red. "Can you not leave?" The woman hesitated, her expression troubled. "Leonard Austin, goodbye." I had just finished work, still turning the key, when Leonard Austin shamelessly put on a show of being dumped in front of me. This is true love. After the woman left, I burst into laughter, not hiding it at all. Leonard Austin seemed lost for a long time, giving me a faint glance before closing the door. That night, he was disheveled in an unbuttoned shirt, hair messy, drinking until dawn without any semblance of control. I called out to him from the balcony, but he remained motionless. Leonard Austin might not hate all women, he just hated me, the one he loved, he truly loved. I began to secretly observe him until one day, he walked by me, not glancing sideways. I felt my heart racing. I knew I was done for. Leonard Austin was drunk again. This time, I saw him knock on the door through the peephole, looking less aloof and frantic than before. His face softened, breath steaming in the cold. He gently knocked. "Wifey, wifey, it's me, open up." Who can resist that? I opened the door, and Leonard Austin smiled brightly. He pulled me into an embrace. "Wifey, I'm so happy to see you again. I remember everything from last time." I found myself being lifted into the air, feeling dizzy. "Put me down." As I steadied myself, I stumbled, and Leonard Austin caught me with concern in his eyes, staring at me with his glistening, bleary gaze. I panicked. What do you remember?" Leonard Austin smiled. "Wifey and I played kissy games, and you gave me a head massage, hugging me tight. You smelled so good. I'm in big trouble. Do you remember now, or did you remember when you were sober?" Leonard Austin pouted. "Wifey, I'm very much sober right now." "I don't believe you, Leonard Austin. If you dare to lie to me, you'll regret it, you know." Leonard Austin rested his head on my shoulder, rubbing against me. "Wifey always looks so fierce. How could I lie to you? You're my favorite." I was completely smitten and quickly hugged him back. Don't worry. Wifey was just teasing you. Leonard Austin is so good. Wifey loves you the most. Mua." Leonard Austin chuckled and reciprocated with a sweet kiss. Yes, I must be crazy. Even though I knew Leonard Austin wouldn't remember anything when sober, I still enjoyed pampering him at that moment. Was I a masochist? "Wifey, I haven't eaten. I'm hungry." Leonard Austin pouted at me. I took a deep breath. "Wifey will make you food." I prepared instant noodles for him, but when he took a bite, he spat it out, looking wronged. "It's hard. Haha. Is the water temperature from the dispenser not enough? Let it soak longer." Leonard Austin walked away, looking unhappy, and found his phone to order takeout. I was horrified. "Aren't you supposed to be drunk? This steak place is really good. I want to take you there. Let me order." After placing the order, he correctly entered my name and phone number. "Wifey, we have to wait a bit." He could still order takeout while being drunk. I looked at this man rolling around on my lap, clenching my teeth, taking a breath. Seeing me like that, Leonard Austin immediately quieted down, lying on my lap and humming. "Wifey, you smell amazing." He lightly touched me, and I locked my arms. "I'm a girl. You can't just touch me like that." "But aren't you my wifey?" Leonard Austin shook my shoulder. "You said last time that wifey could do anything to her husband, so why can't I do the same? You don't even call me husband." His adorable whining gave me a headache. "Fine, do whatever you want. You can touch me." I touched Leonard Austin's head, gazing into his pure, clear eyes, sighed and softly called out to him, "Hubby." Hearing me say that, Leonard Austin froze for a moment. He pressed his lips together, the infatuated boyish look disappearing, eyes deep like the ocean. "Let's do some activities before dinner. I'm practicing yoga. Join me." I guided him into a bent cat pose, And once he was ready, I said, "Hold that," then click went my phone. "Thank you for your stake in your body. But if you lie to me, I now have something on you." I wiggled my phone at him. I forgot how I sent Leonard Austin away that day, only remembering his clingy calls of, "Wifey, wifey, how can anyone handle this?" The next day was bidding day. I glanced at the almanac. It's a good day for business. Ha ha. As I left, I ran into Leonard Austin. His face was slightly flushed, and he was coughing as if he had a cold. Noticing my gaze, he turned his head, his eyes lingering on me for 7 or 8 seconds. "What's up? Am I pretty?" I maintained my composure. Leonard Austin relaxed his brow and said, "Today we're competing against Keith Perkin. He mentioned he wouldn't contend for this bid, but you didn't listen and insisted on going for it, taking down a tough competitor that the boss couldn't. That's skill, and the bonus is particularly generous." I explained casually, "I just enjoy challenges others can't complete." "Leonard Austin, I'm here now. Make way." Leonard Austin smiled as if he didn't believe me. "Really?" "Of course. On bidding day, I actually won. I came alone, without even an assistant." When they announced I had secured the bid, I slapped my thigh hard. I was over the moon, stifling a laugh. But Leonard Austin raised an eyebrow at me, seemingly seeing through my glee. "Astrid Hudson, congratulations. I hope you mean it." I stretched out my hand. "Well played. I didn't let you win," Leonard Austin said as he walked out. "Since you say the bonus is substantial, mind treating this defeated opponent to dinner. Is he free today?" Thinking about entertaining oneself while celebrating life's successes, I smiled. "Sure. Where are we eating?" Half an hour later, I stared at the takeout steak in front of me. Its familiar sheen, its familiar taste. Biting my lip, Leonard Austin was surprised by my reaction. "Are you vegetarian?" I shook my head. "It's too rare for you." I shook my head again. Leonard Austin set down his wine glass, and elegantly wiped his mouth. What did I mess up on? My heart raced again. I just couldn't comprehend what Leonard Austin was up to. He was fine when drunk, but how did he suddenly change when sober? "Why are we coming back to eat?" I didn't understand. Leonard Austin's brow relaxed. "During peak hours, it would take us an hour to get here from the restaurant. Don't you find this steak familiar?" Leonard Austin suddenly realized, "You've eaten this before." "Sorry, that was a mistake. I'll try something else next time." "Leonard Austin, what exactly do you want to do?" Instead of answering, Leonard Austin opened a bottle of wine and prepared a glass for me. "Try this. What does it taste like?" he asked. The taste of money. After all, I was paying with my own money. Today it was my treat. Once we had a drink, we loosened up and began to chatter away. Leonard Austin shared some funny stories from abroad, and we grew closer. By the end, we were both gleefully squeezing each other's thighs while laughing. That atmosphere was suddenly shattered by a phone call. "Hang on, I'll be there soon." After I heard, I calmed down. Leonard Austin, still a bit drunk, asked, "Where to?" "I'll drive you." "You've been drinking," I softly reminded him. "I'm just delivering keys." I opened the door to leave. Suddenly, a hand pressed against the door. I turned to see Leonard Austin's flushed face, but an expression full of seriousness. He lowered his head, with a strong smell of alcohol, asking one word at a time, "Whose keys do you have? So late. Delivering to whom?" In the taxi, Leonard Austin began acting drunk again. I crossed my arms. "Why are you following me?" Leonard Austin squirmed. "You're my wife. It's so late. Of course, I have to follow you. I'm delivering keys to my ex-boyfriend. Then I'm worried he might bully you." He leaned over with a teary expression, burying his face in my arms, sounding aggrieved. "Also, how do you still have his keys?" I sighed. This story is quite long. When I broke up with Greg Nell, he was impatient. I tried to return the keys a few times, but he always said he often forgets them, and might need to ask me for them. Later, I got busy with work and forgot about it. Don't think this was a sign he wanted to get back together. He was the first to cheat. He has the face. I don't have the heart. The reason I still held on to the keys wasn't that I hated him to that extent. He helped me when we were kids. When my apartment building caught fire, I was trapped inside. He saw it and called the fire department and, realizing that didn't work, risked climbing over to save me. When I arrived at Nell's place, Leonard Austin trailed behind. He tugged on my finger, stumbling as we walked. I didn't dare go too fast for fear he would really trip. Be good, I said, feeling anxious about bringing Leonard Austin to meet Nell. I leaned in close and said, "You're drunk and defenseless. My ex-boyfriend has a bad temper, so just stay behind me, okay?" Leonard Austin squinted, not replying. On the 10th floor, as soon as I opened the door, I heard Nell's furious voice. "Damn it, she cheated on me. I'll make her understand why blood is red." Just great. Nell was lying on the floor, red-faced, surrounded by locksmiths, property staff, and neighbors, exuding alcohol, claiming he'd been cheated on. When he saw me, his eyes softened slightly as he stood up to come towards me, but then he suddenly saw the tall, lean figure behind me. He froze, his usual recklessness seemingly bound by an invisible rope, even stumbling back, stepping in his own vomit and falling hard. I clicked my tongue, turning to cover Leonard Austin's eyes. "Hubby, promise me you'll never get drunk like that, okay?" So embarrassing. Leonard Austin stood straight, a sarcastic smile tugging at his lips, gripping my hand. "Got it." I had intended to leave after delivering the keys, but the property staff asked me to stay in case Nell caused trouble. I placed Leonard Austin on the sofa and inquired with property management, "What's going on here?" They explained that the girl who originally lived there had a fight with Nell, who then kicked her out and went on a drunken rant, locking himself outside. I understood. From Nell's tone, it was clear he'd been cheated on. I found it a bit amusing, but just as I turned around, the table collapsed, and Leonard Austin was punched by Nell. Leonard Austin, still a bit drunk, touched his mouth and stood up. I rushed over. "Hubby, are you okay?" I admit I acted, but the moment I saw Leonard Austin's mouth bleeding, anger surged within me. Nell's eyes widened in disbelief. "What did you call him?" My eyes were hurting, and I was holding Leonard Austin tightly, my brows twitching in anger. "Honey, didn't you hear? Astrid Hudson, you said you would only love me. You've cheated on me, too." I was fuming. At first, Leonard Austin was tense, but after I embraced him, his muscles relaxed, and he even patted my head. Nell's face turned greener than his hair. "You two are married. Do you even know who he is?" "Of course I do." I was enveloped in Leonard Austin's warm embrace. His eyes were glazed over, the effects of alcohol hitting him hard and fast. He leaned down and gave me a deep, lingering kiss, then said, "Honey, is he an idiot? Couples can call each other that." Half an hour later, at the police station, yes, right after Leonard Austin said that, Nell lunged at him. Surprisingly, even though Leonard Austin was clearly drunk, he didn't take advantage of the situation. According to colleagues, Leonard Austin often worked out with us, Keith Perkin, after work, and I had seen his abs during the fight. No exaggeration there. "Who threw the first punch?" "He did." I pointed at Nell. Nell, his eyes red, looked up at the officer. "They're a couple. They can't testify against each other." "Why are you hitting my boyfriend?" I insisted on that point. Nell's eyes grew even redder. "How long have you two been together? How did you meet? Astrid Hudson, did you ever love me?" I couldn't be bothered to respond. "What's it to you?" The officer noticed Nell getting angrier, and determined he was the one who threw the first punch, ordering him to pay for damages and apologize. "No need." I was eager to take Leonard Austin to the hospital and stood up to leave. Nell got up too. "I'm injured. I'm going too." The officer slammed the table. "No one is bailing you out. This is the last time I'll help you," I said as I reached the door, pulling out my phone. "Your girlfriend's number, say it." Nell slumped back into his chair, the light in his eyes extinguished, his voice hoarse. "She won't come." "Astrid Hudson, you really?" Leonard Austin let out a low groan. A female officer with a flushed face asked, "Did I hurt you?" I immediately went to pry her little, delicate hands away from him. I took Leonard Austin's hand, interlocking our fingers. "Thanks. I'll take care of my boyfriend." Before leaving, I glanced at Nell. My feelings complicated. "Nell, I'm leaving." Lingering feelings from childhood and life debts usually lead to smooth sailing, but life is unpredictable. Despite my desire to part ways gracefully, things don't always go as planned. In the taxi, Leonard Austin was silent. I felt nervous as I regained my composure. Do you hurt? You can talk if it hurts. Leonard Austin opened his eyes, glanced at me, and placed my hand on his chest. I've trained in combat sports. It's not that bad. But you were busy, worrying about him earlier, not me. Streetlights flashed past, and the hurt in Leonard Austin's eyes tugged at my heart. I'm sorry, this is the last time. Look, I've already returned his keys. What if I block him on Weshit? Leonard Austin obediently sat up. Okay. In front of him, I blocked Greg Nell and his number, then kissed him. I teased him. How's my wife? Leonard Austin's ears turned bright red. Good. Remember, tonight's injury was from you being careless. After you get back, sleep well, and you'll be fine tomorrow. Okay. The redness in his ears faded gradually as he looked at me, his tone dragging out. What if I said it wasn't okay? I squinted at him and pinched his cheek. Not listening to your wife. You've got some nerve. Ah, wife. Wife. It hurts. You don't love me anymore. Here we go again. Looking at that handsome, adorable face, I couldn't help but kiss him. Shut up. I'm going to your house today. That night, we squeezed into his place and did everything. Well, not really. I just helped him apply ointment. Leonard Austin was blushing, and in the end, he surrendered. After tending to his wounds, I looked at Leonard Austin, who was only wearing a pair of navy blue knee-length shorts. My face turned a bit red. Put something on. Can't I stay bare? Honey, it's a bit hot. We haven't developed to that level yet, but last time you were drunk, you slapped my butt and kissed me. You know I was pretending, right? He nodded. I also know you like me. I don't. Leonard Austin snuggled closer to me, sullying my hair, kissing my neck. How deadly could this be? I heard him say, I know when my wife lies. Her eyes blinked twice. I pushed him away. I thought I was the one fishing here, but damn it, he's the one casting the nets. My attitude towards Leonard Austin changed. He knew I liked him. In military strategy, that's called losing before you even fight. He might not realize how ridiculous he acted when drunk, but he certainly knows my embarrassing side. The next day in the elevator, I cautiously tested Leonard Austin, but he was lukewarm toward me. When I got scolded by Keith Perkin, he blew steam from his coffee, looking at me with admiration. Then he even took a few of my accolades. That day marked an offshore bidding session. I was on the phone rushing to catch a flight, asking the flight attendant to help me with my luggage. When I looked up, I bumped into Leonard Austin, who was wearing a Bluetooth headset and seemed to be in a meeting. His eyes scanned from my hotel slippers to my stockings, and then to my skirt. Without a word, he looked at me with a hint of mockery. Your skirt's torn, he said. I turned crimson. Where's it torn? You. Leonard Austin looked at me strangely, and continued into his headset. Download the data and send it to me. After the meeting, he took off his headset and asked softly, What did you just say? I didn't catch that. Just go on with your meeting. I mumbled. Together we got off the plane and arrived at the hotel, only to find out we were in the same one, swiping cards to get into our rooms. And oh great, I was right next door. This is unreal. I need to pray when I return this year. The bidding was set for the next day, and in the afternoon before, I was checking documents when a sudden pang struck my lower abdomen. I rushed to the bathroom and found my period had arrived. Since childhood, I have had a cold constitution, and I've even fainted from menstrual cramps. I always kept rose tea, ginger candy, and pain medication ready, but this time the work had me forget. While crying in pain on the toilet, I called the front desk to bring me sanitary products. I couldn't get to the door, but then I heard Leonard Austin's voice outside. Astrid Hudson wants me to deliver something, but she won't open the door. Give it to me, I'll check on her. That's not a good idea. We can't just swipe cards to enter. What if something happened? I know her, and if something's wrong, I'll take responsibility. Leonard Austin's voice turned icy, full of authority. Open it. The front desk unlocked the door before I could stop them. Leonard Austin barged in without a second thought, seeing a pool of blood under me. Clearly, something serious had happened. He grabbed my hand, pulled me into his arms, panicking, and my blood smeared all over him. I'm just on my period. Didn't you hear her yelling? I gritted out, trembling in pain. Leonard Austin finally realized. The front desk was flustered, holding the pads which seemed strangely inappropriate at that moment. Finally, Leonard Austin exited. I left him with a, "I'll pay you back for the shirt," before shutting the door behind him. I nearly lost my mind. The next day, I passionately took the bid. Leonard Austin stood up and clapped for me. What a show-off! He learned that I liked him, and then saw me at my most humiliating moment. And oh, he even changed into a fresh shirt, thinking I'd be touched by his sincere congratulations. That night, I was supposed to have dinner with the project lead, but they apparently knew each other, and after Leonard Austin said something, the lead looked me up and down. "Miss, take care of yourself. Let's meet again when you're in Haikang. That dog of a man is definitely trying to trip me up." If the results hadn't been announced the same day, I would have concluded there was an inside job. That night, there was a knock at the door. I opened it with a hot water bottle in my hands, and a body stumbled in, falling heavily onto me. I recognized the familiar scent and managed not to scream. Before I could react, a hand pressed against my lower abdomen, surprisingly more effective than the hot water bottle. The pain lessened immediately. "You're awesome, honey. You're in pain but still won. I'm so useless. I can't ease your pain and still can't win against you." Sob sob. I smiled and ruffled his hair. "Yeah, and you know, I have evidence of you being a lovesick puppy. One day, if you dare mock my feelings for you, I'll show everyone." Leonard Austin seemed to completely ignore that comment and wrapped his arms around me. That night, he fussed over me, except for accidentally burning himself while boiling water. Everything was perfect. I had never enjoyed such treatment, bringing my husband on a work trip. Back when I was with Greg Nell, I was in so much pain I ended up in the hospital, and he was busy gaming with friends. I had an early morning flight, meaning I wouldn't get much rest. Leonard Austin took a shower in my place, wrapped in a bathrobe, and came for my bed. "Absolutely not. Do you see my flight is at 7? I need to get up at 4 to pack my things." Most importantly, he could never wake up in my room. "But honey, you're in pain, and you need me." "I need painkillers. I'm better than painkillers. I care about you, and I won't leave." "What do I do if I can't get rid of him?" "I'll go to your room." I suddenly remembered his assistant was in the same room. I felt doomed. We lay in bed together while I was in pain, and I still hadn't come up with a solution, feeling even more frustrated with him. Leonard Austin snuggled closer. He didn't realize what was off for quite some time before leaning in. "Honey, painkillers don't work for you. Are you going to suffer from now on? You need to deal with the root of the problem." His intelligence was fine. It was just infuriating. "What? You want to help me solve it? Is he taking advantage of me?" He paused, then leaned in with a watery gaze. "I'll be your painkiller for life." Whoa, that's sweet. If only I hadn't stupidly fallen asleep. At 4 a.m., I quietly got out of bed. I thought for a moment and went next door to talk this issue over with his assistant. In his drowsiness, I transferred 5,000 yuan to him, and he finally woke up. "Don't tell Leonard Austin about this." Nothing happened. We just fell asleep after talking deep into the night. He was drunk. "You know." The assistant looked puzzled. "He said he was going to find his wife. I thought she was in Haikang." "Wait until I leave. You bring him back. And if he asks tomorrow, just say he was drunk and got confused." He agreed. When I returned to grab my luggage, the light from my phone made Leonard Austin turn over. In a haze, he grabbed my hand. "Astrid Hudson." He called me, still half asleep. I quickly reassured him, kissing his forehead and brow. "Be good, Leonard Austin. I'm just going to the bathroom. You go back to sleep. It's still early." He froze for a moment, still in pain. His voice was hoarse, still hazy from the alcohol, but the playful puppy-like tone was gone. "I'm used to it. Just sleep, darling." The flight back to our city felt like a dream, much like my connection with Leonard Austin. Afterward, I kept busy. It was year-end, and I needed to collect all the payments before closing the books. At the annual meeting, Heath Perkin mentioned a joint gathering with the neighbors, and everyone got excited. After all, Leonard Austin and his crew were much wealthier than us, so a joint party promised to be a far grander affair than in previous years. Sure enough, they booked out an entire sports center, with catering from a 5-star hotel. I got the latest model of a smartphone, which made me pretty happy. Leonard was over there drinking, chatting intermittently. I didn't dare meet his gaze, though I felt a faint sense of anticipation inside. I didn't want to admit that I was expecting anything. Halfway through, Leonard stepped out for a bit. When he returned, he looked terrible and hurriedly grabbed his coat to leave. I waited at home all night, indulging in skincare, watching videos, and binge-watching shows until 3 a.m. But Leonard never came. Dreams are just dreams. What was I even expecting? The next day, I overheard the new interns chatting in the break room. Leonard Austin's girlfriend is back. She broke up with him for a great opportunity abroad, but she came back crying to find him yesterday. Leonard comforted her. They look like a perfect couple. I heard Leonard's ex-girlfriend had quite a story. Apparently, he supported her through college. After his parents divorced, he and his mom moved abroad. He could have stayed, but he returned for her. Leonard treats her really well. I was stunned. I still remembered how heartbroken Leonard had been over his ex, as if he had lost everything. If he cared for her so much, why was he treating me like this? Just a temporary comfort. The answer came swiftly. The next morning, I opened the door and bumped right into the woman walking out of Leonard's room. She was striking and had an indescribable charm, with dyed blue streaks in her hair that gave her an artistic vibe. Leonard followed shortly, locking eyes with me for a moment, surprised. So they were living together now. I bit my lip, struggling to accept that someone had jumped ahead of me in this relationship. When are the plans set? We should visit Grandma before everything is finalized. I haven't seen her in a long time. That statement carried heavy implications. They were either getting engaged or married, and it sounded like they'd met each other's parents just the day before. I had heard she was back, and now this. How fast things were moving. My heart crumbled. Leonard ignored her, turning to me. Did you not sleep well? I shook my head randomly, not wanting to engage with him. As the elevator doors opened, I rushed out. The woman behind me exhaled something, but I didn't catch it. It was chaotic driving. I wasn't wearing my seatbelt and hit the gas, crashing into another car exiting the parking lot. Everything spun, warm liquid flowing from my forehead. Suddenly, I was pulled into a familiar embrace, the scent enveloping me. Damn it, I crashed into Leonard Austin's G-Class. Later, the woman anxiously offered to drive me to the hospital. I gritted my teeth in pain but still refused. Leonard's handsome face looked pale and worn. You've got a serious injury. You'll scar on your forehead. We need to go. I can go myself. You should be with your girlfriend. Take the insurance back. Leonard paused. After a moment, it seemed he finally realized something and asked, my girlfriend? What else? I snapped. Breaking up with Greg Nell was embarrassing enough. I disliked love triangles even more. What's with the games? The woman seemed to understand, nodding in acknowledgement. Is she Astrid Hudson? She asked. Leonard nodded and so did she. That makes sense. She's quite unique, she teased, and I bristled at her tone. Excuse me. All I wanted was to escape. Leonard frowned, uncertain of what to say. The woman glanced at her watch, suppressing a laugh, and finally said, Leonard, I have to hurry off to the team. You take care of this, okay? Leonard held my wrist tightly, struggling to find words. Eventually, he blushed and squeezed out a heavy, okay. Dazed, I sat in his car. After what felt like an eternity, I finally couldn't hold back my curiosity. Aren't you an only child? Your parents divorced, and you moved abroad with your mom. So, where did this sister come from? Is she recognized? Leonard focused on driving, softly explaining. She's a dancer whom my mom sponsored. She's older than me. She had an important competition in France a while ago, and was gone for about 4 months. So you're not related, yet you call her sister. That's a bit strange. You two together. Leonard looked at me quizzically, opened his mouth but couldn't respond. Instead, he asked, did you think I was single after breaking up with someone? Which is why you barged into my house that day. I don't understand what you mean. I knew he referred to the time I pretended to be drunk and kissed him. Do you now think I deceived you? Caught off guard, I held my head. My head hurts. Leonard tightened his grip on the steering wheel, and abruptly pressed the gas. After a moment, I heard him softly mutter, I shouldn't have held back. At the end of his workday, he came to our office and, in front of everyone, said, "Sorry for cracking your head open and damaging your car. Let me drive you home, and take you out for dinner." I was completely bewildered. Why did he have that same sense of unwarranted bravado, as when I kissed him without warning? Others in the office peeked at me. I hurriedly packed up to leave. "You have my wish it. Why not text me?" Leonard's voice was clear. "That feels insincere. What do you want for dinner? I can cook. I don't know a lot, but I can manage. Could you keep it down?" It was rush hour in a crowded elevator. What was he trying to do? "How about vegetable and lean meat porridge? I can also bake bread and sandwiches." He sincerely looked down and asked, not even noticing how everyone was stealing glances at him. Whatever. Okay. Should we cook at your place or mine?" He stepped out of the elevator. "I have underfloor heating. Come over to mine." Everyone lingered, incredulous, waiting to see what would happen next. I felt exposed, realizing rumors about us would spread like wildfire. "Leonard Austin, what exactly are you trying to do? I can cook for myself. I'm great at ordering takeout. Can't you just go be with your girlfriend?" "She's not my girlfriend," Leonard asserted right there at the building's entrance. "I didn't want to discuss this in front of all those passersby. You just came from her place. No blood relation. But she's not your girlfriend. You're such a jerk." My anger got the better of me. She dropped off my household registration book that morning. I need it for buying a house. Besides, she likes women. Wait, what? She has a girlfriend in her troupe. Are you serious? She asks for help from our family. If you want her and her girlfriend to perform for you, that could be arranged. I gasped and stepped back, feeling this was too much. Stop. If you don't want everyone talking about us tomorrow, just be quiet." "I don't get it. Why are you explaining this to me? Who am I to you?" Social death was imminent. I still needed to function in society. People around us were walking slower, clearly drawn to our drama. Leonard stepped closer, his face slightly flushed, and with a lowered gaze, said, "You're my wife. If my wife is upset, I need to explain." I left in a daze with Leonard back to his place. He opened that unfinished bottle of wine from last time. That night, one bottle had been enough to turn him into the big dog. I snatched the bottle from him, my hands trembling. "You already knew." "Knew what?" You. Leonard paused for quite a while, sipping the wine before finally speaking succinctly. It was evident that he was more comfortable being reserved and lacked words, making this lengthy explanation challenging for him. "My mom became pregnant with my brother during her second year abroad. Then my sister came along. She's very happy with my stepdad, and they have a beautiful family. I, on the other hand, don't fit in well with them. My dad remarried. I haven't seen him in years. I didn't come back for my sister but for my grandparents, as they were unwell. My sister was abroad for a competition when my grandfather passed away. It took a toll on my mental health, and I didn't want her to leave. But she had her responsibilities. What I mean by responsibilities are the various processes I had to handle to stay in the country. It's quite tedious. My grandmother is not well, and I wanted to be with her by the end of the year because every year spent together is less time lost." As I listened, my gaze softened, because Leonard was getting increasingly inebriated. Now I understood how he got drunk. He was drinking to forget. Leonard crawled over to embrace my waist, trembling a bit. After a moment, he said, "Wifey, I knocked myself out just to come to you. Please forgive me." My limbs felt numb. Who could refuse this kinda Leonard Austin? I couldn't bring myself to look into his eyes, but he was staring directly at me. I rubbed my painful forehead and kissed him. "You're already drunk. Are you sure? Why don't you give it a try?" "I can't. My forehead is injured. No vigorous movements. It'll speed up my blood circulation." "Okay, I'll hold you all night. Promise I won't do anything." That night, after our exchange, I couldn't hold back any longer. I flipped over and pinned Leonard down. "You knew you were like this when drunk. You purposely got wasted to avoid talking to me, didn't you? That's so pathetic. Are you afraid to speak to me when sober?" Leonard Austin's gaze was deep as he gently caressed my lips with his finger. "Aren't you?" We were startled awake by a knock on the door. I attempted to get up, my body aching as if I had been beaten. Leonard Austin wrapped one arm around me, tucked me in, gave me a good morning kiss, and then dressed and left. I heard that woman's gentle voice from the doorway. Leonard Austin, why are you coming out of this room? SHH. Astrid Hudson is sleeping. Ha. The woman lowered her voice. I'm here to pick something up. Leonard Austin, with my status? I think that's called supporting. Right. Are we going back home to see Grandma together at the end of the year? I have someone else with me. Why don't you take your girlfriend instead? You're being too obvious about using me. Leonard Austin. Bye. I covered my face with my hands upon hearing their conversation. There were some rustling sounds in the room, but Leonard Austin didn't come back. I could hardly contain my impatience, so I got out of bed and walked to the kitchen, where I saw freshly made fried eggs and sandwich bread. The man, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist, maneuvered effortlessly in my kitchen. Leonard Austin glanced at me and put down the plate. You're awake. I bit my nails. Oh, what are you reminiscing about? Did you brush your teeth and wash your face? You weren't you. I felt the headache coming on again. I had imagined countless scenarios of competing with Leonard Austin, but I never thought it would escalate to this. I questioned him. Don't you dislike me? This isn't clear yet. You haven't confessed. He looked up. Whether I like you or not is seen in actions, not words. Shall I do it again? Rogue. I tried to salvage a bit of dignity. Shall we drink again tonight? I wanted to teach him a good lesson while he was drunk. Even if we were to become a couple, we needed to establish some ground rules first. Leonard Austin nodded, pulling me over to feed me breakfast. Sure, if you prefer me that way, I'll get drunk a few more times. Regardless of the situation, my stamina won't diminish. I caught on to the implication that I wouldn't be able to turn things around after this. Leonard Austin and I started dating. For my image, it had left quite an impression at the office since we were known as rivals. We decided to keep it a secret for now. Fortunately, the holidays were approaching. I was going to visit his grandmother with him. That afternoon, I chose a proper and virtuous outfit, and got into Leonard Austin's big G class. As we drove down the increasingly familiar road, my nerves started to kick in. You said we were going to your grandmother's place, but this is the road to my parents' house. Leonard Austin glanced at me. This is the road to my grandmother's. And thus we entered the same community. The neighborhood was bustling with activity. Greg Nell, dressed in a cotton coat, was sitting in a pavilion playing mahjong with some old ladies. When he saw us, he went wild. Greg Nell pointed at Leonard Austin, his words stumbling. You're back. You aren't allowed back. You and Astrid Hudson. He knew Leonard Austin. I had sent something off last time, and was about to question Leonard Austin, when he grabbed my hand. Let's go home first. My mind was racing. You said you grew up with your grandparents, so you lived in this neighborhood as a child. Don't you know me and Greg Nell? Who are you? We walked into the last unit on the floor, but it seemed the old lady was out for something, as no one answered the door even after knocking for a while. Leonard Austin was on the phone, so I stepped outside for a bit. Behind the residential building, there was an open space filled with weeds. I glanced back toward the balcony of my old home on the 4th floor, and suddenly a wave of fragmented memories rushed back. A little girl, sucking on a lollipop, said to the boy who was studying, Leonard Austin, "Hubby, give me a kiss." The boy turned red, coolly replying, "Can you be a little more reserved?" The little girl insisted, "Just tell me if you will or not." The boy fell silent, and the girl pointed at his nose. "You wait for me." The next time, the girl commanded another group of children to hold the boy down while she climbed onto him, declaring, "Kids, hold him tight. I'm going to eat Tang Sen's flesh." Classmate Astrid Hudson leaned in for a kiss, and Sarah Conrad stormed out of her house angrily, resulting in a bunch of kids running off, laughing. I used to be a little bandit when I was young. Everyone called me the boss or Astrid Hudson. Thinking back, it was after that time Greg Nell saved me that he began calling me that. I couldn't recall much from earlier memories, at the age of 7 or 8, but if Leonard Austin was Professor Vincent's grandson, he had just gone abroad the day my house caught fire. This memory gradually faded as I transitioned from losing a companion to gaining my life back. In the distance, Sarah Conrad returned from grocery shopping with her caregiver. She spotted me from afar, first surprised, then burst into laughter. "Astrid Hudson, it's you." Leonard Austin wrapped his arm around me and kissed my forehead, saying to Sarah Conrad, "Yeah, It's always been her. I felt faint, covering my face, looking at him. Leonard Austin, hubby. He smiled and replied, "You're so good." This story is now complete. Feel free to subscribe to the channel for the latest content, as a large number of novels are updated every day.